All right, I'm live now. I'm gonna let it invite some friends. I'm gonna invite some friends in, once we get a few people in here, or not. We're gonna do the message regardless. All right, y'all? All right. Peace and power. For those of you who are looking in, this is your brother Bob Amin. This is our morning build. Haven't done one in a little while. Sitting here in class at the Uhuru Academy. The Uhuru Academy Pharaohs are hard at work right now doing a creative writing. We write creatively every morning. Y'all give everybody a black power. Of course, y'all give them stronger than that. Black power. There you go. There you go. Got a good black power. They can't be too loud because my babies are still asleep, so we can't be too loud with it. But what's up, Wuda? What's happening? What's happening, Shakti? Alima, peace. You know what I'm saying? Big E, what's happening, comrade? You know what I'm saying? Just want to shoot a quick live this morning to motivate. The students told me to get on here and motivate the people. And we've been talking about, we study our Adinkra symbols, and we've been talking about the Giye and Yame, fear none but God, you know what I'm saying? And we were talking about a film that we watched the other day called Human Planet. And on Human Planet, it showed, it was on this particular episode, it was showing people who lived and survived in jungle areas. And they showed these Africans in the Congo, right? And they had one scene where the father of a family climbed a tree that had to be at least 60 feet in the air or more, right? He climbed a tree using nothing but a vine to support himself, right? And he climbed this tree to get to this beehive to get honey for his family, just a snack for his family. It wasn't essential to their survival or anything like that. But he wanted to get a snack for his family. So this brother started climbing this tree, going up, and of course they put the little translations on there. And he was like, man, if you have fear, you'll die. If you have fear, you're not a man. If you have fear, you can't get this done. And this brother scaled the tree, got to the top. The bees started stinging him. Now he had some leaves and he was using to smoke the bees, but they were still stinging him, wasn't they, y'all? Right? And he dug into the hive anyway, got that honey out. And start lowering it down to his family. And he stayed up there eating the honey himself. And he was talking about conquering fear, that's a part of their rite of passage to conquer fear. Also last night I had the opportunity to check out a screening of Tariq Nasheed's 1804, which is a study of the Haitian Revolution. And in that, they did an excellent job of detailing how the Haitians had to get over their fear of the enemy in order to be successful with their revolution. And part of what they did, or the main thing that they did to get over that fear, they had to get rid of all foreign images of God. They had to drop their oppressor's religion altogether and adopt or readopt African traditions, in this case, voodoo and Yoruba, right? And once they got rid of those images of white deities, those images of white divinity, and replaced it with African divinity, when they started invoking their ancestors and started invoking black gods and black deities, it totally erased their fear of the white man. It erased their fear of the guns and the so-called superior technology. And they did an excellent job of using nature and everything around them to defeat white people. You might see a white soldier walking through the woods. He might be walking through the woods, and a brother might be in a tree with a blow dart, with a poison-tipped arrow. Didn't hear nothing. Pow, got him. He out of there. You had people like Mackendall, who traveled throughout the island. He was an herbalist who traveled throughout the island, training black folk who worked in the kitchen on how to poison their slave master. They say Mackendall poisoned and killed over 6,000 white people during his career. Erasing that fear, right? They had an attitude of freedom or death. There's no other alternative, freedom or death, right? They were determined to do for self. They were determined to own for self, to own land, to build institutions. Even in the midst of the French, the British, and the Spanish being there, The Haitian people were still building for themselves, working for themselves. They would have meetings in swamp areas surrounded by alligators, right? That's how they weaponized the environment. They would have meetings in the swamp surrounded by alligators because they knew white folks weren't going to come down to that swamp. But they learned how to navigate the swamp and be around alligators without being attacked, right? No fear. No fear. Today, we still operate in fear. We still operating in fear of the consequences of just loving who we are. We fear the consequences of just embracing our story. I ain't even talking about doing nothing to white folks or striking back at police. We still live in fear of just being ourselves. We're still living in fear of just embracing who we are and whose we are. We still live in fear of rejecting the deity of the oppressor and accepting our own. We still live in fear. We have to conquer that. If you can't conquer the fear of being yourself, you definitely never conquer the fear of your enemy. If we can't conquer the fear of the consequences of taking our children's education into our own hands, if we're still scared of that, we would rather take a chance. We would rather play lottery with our babies' lives. We'd rather play lotto with their lives. Send them into a system that we all agree that's designed for them to fail, to be subpar. Send them into a system that we all agree that's designed to send them on a pipeline to prison. We all agree. That's been proven. White people even agree that the public school system is designed for our children to fail. They're rushing our children into special ed classes that don't need to be in special ed. They're criminalizing our black boys and girls. All of their behavior, criminalizing the culture. We all agree, there's no argument, but we're too afraid to do anything about it outside of begging them to change. Outside of begging them to change when they have no incentive to change. They've monetized black failure. They've monetized it. So when the school is a failing school, that's a money pit. That's a school that's going to make money for that district because now they can apply. Now they can tell the federal government, we're having failing schools. We need more resources. We need more resources. And the money comes in, but the school don't get no better. Your baby's a cash cow. When they can diagnose your child, they get double the money. They can double up. They can double up on your baby when they diagnose them with a learning disorder that they probably don't even have. But we sit back and we wait. We sit back and we're patient. Some of us even go down there and shake our finger at the white folks. We even go down there and we talk noise. Oh, we need this. We need this. We need this in the school. We need that in the school. No, we need schools. We need our own schools. We need to create an alternative. We need to build institutions for our children and stop being scared. We need to stop telling ourselves we can't do that. Who gonna do that? We can't build for ourselves. We can't separate from the school system. And I love this. That's where we pay our taxes. Yeah, that is where you pay your taxes, but even though you're paying your taxes, you have no institutional control whatsoever. None. You can go down there and be heard, but are you affecting change? We got a group here that just got a Black History curriculum accepted by the school district. But we need more than just a Black History class. Our history ain't a class. Our history is not an elective. Everything our children experience should be experienced from an African-centered perspective. Everything our children learn should be learned from the perspective of African people, period. Everything, math, science, geography, everything should be learned from an African-centered perspective. That means that when they learn the history of a discipline, they learn the history of the discipline based on our people's experience with that discipline first. Doesn't mean they're going to cut out everybody else's contribution to civilization, but they're going to look at everybody's contribution through an African lens. I don't understand how difficult that is, but we are so afraid to do that. We are so afraid to take our children and liberate our children. We talk about boycott Christmas, boycott Walmart, boycott this, boycott the NFL, boycott the public school system. The public school system is the number one introducer to prison for our children. Our children are introduced to the prison system through the school system. that ain't practical, that we can't do that. Why can't we do that? I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that. If we can't stand up and fight for our children first, the minds of our children first, what are we doing? We have to conquer these fears, man. We got to conquer the fear. We have to stop being afraid of our enemies. And when I say enemies, I'm not just talking about the European. I'm talking about our internal enemies as well. That inner European, that European that's inside of you. That part of you that think that if white people kill you, there's some kind of special death. That if white people punish you, that's some kind of special punishment that's different from when black people punish you. I was at a meeting yesterday in East Fort Worth, and shout out to Dr. Michael Bell at Greater St. Stephen's First Church. But they have this thing in Fort Worth called the Race and Culture Task Force, or the Task Force on Race and Culture. You see, Africans in Fort Worth were standing up and fighting police terrorism. And what you got in return, you didn't get justice. Matter of fact, we even had a couple of police officers that stood up, right? They got fired and demoted, right? A couple of black police officers got fired and demoted. No justice came for the families that everybody was fighting for. But what the mayor did do, because Fort Worth became so blatantly racist, and even a report came out from the federal government claiming that Fort Worth is one of America's most racist cities, the mayor commissioned a task force on race relations. See, they always try to frame our fight for justice as white folk and black folk not getting along, like it's some kind of two-way argument going on. So they put this coalition of race and justice together to go around to different sides of town and talk about race relations. How is that justice for black people? And a lot of black folks, because they're afraid to take things to another level, because we're afraid to call them on their BS, because we're afraid to say, no, that ain't what we want. We want justice. A lot of us said, oh, see, we making progress. See, we got a coalition. We gonna talk about race. What is it? What do we need to talk about? After 300 years of slavery, 100-something years of Jim Crow, blatant racism, crack cocaine, genocide, what is there to talk about? We don't know what we're up against by now. We don't know what the situation is by now. Of course we know what's going on. We're afraid. We're afraid. A lot of our so-called leaders, a lot of us will get together and we'll tell the truth. We'll talk about the truth amongst ourselves. But when them folks come around, we don't say what we said in our meetings. We don't say it anymore. We'll talk about the racism when we're alone. But when them white folks come around, now, things are fine. It's just that, we've made progress. It's just that, well, look, most cops are good. It's just that we always have to put the disclaimer out there because we still afraid. We still afraid. Hell, the people on the task force came to the meeting and they admitted it was just a publicity stunt. They admitted that they had no power, that they really couldn't get nothing done, that it was just a conversation. Y'all, I'm gonna tell you something. White people already know what you want. They already know what we need, but they also know we scared to demand it. They know some of us are brave enough to ask for it, but very few of us are brave enough to take it. Very few of us are brave enough to do it for ourselves. They know you'll ask. You brave enough to ask. You brave enough to demand. You'll even raise your voice, but you don't have the courage to separate. You don't have the courage to pull your dollars out of their institutions, to pull your children out of their institutions. You don't have that kind of bravery and that kind of courage. And they know that. They know that. So stand up and be heard. Keep marching. Keep protesting. And shout out to Dr. Bell and the brothers and sisters that are outside the Omni right now protesting. That's a different kind of protest. They're hurting Fort Worth tourism. They're hurting the tourism industry in Fort Worth. So they're actually hitting them in the pockets. Shout out to them. But they know we'll even take it to that level. But they know we're not brave enough to trust each other, to build businesses together. We're not brave enough to huddle up and pull our children out of these schools and build schools and programs for our children ourselves, no matter how hard it is, no matter how long it takes. We don't believe that we can do it. We're not brave enough to do it. And they know that. We're not brave enough to reject their culture, to reject this BS. They know we're not. We'll talk noise, but we won't build institutions around it. That takes a different kind of courage. When you know, when we build it, they're going to try to destroy it. They're trying to destroy you anyway. They know you're not brave enough. They know they done scared you off. They shot Malcolm. They shot Martin. And that's all they teach our children, about leaders that got killed. So our children won't step up and be leaders themselves. They don't teach them about the ones that did it. They don't teach them about the ones that survived. They don't teach them about the ones that built businesses like Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Noble Drew Ali. They don't teach them about Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser. They don't teach them about Duty Boukman and Mackendal and Dessalines. It's a reason why you don't learn about them, because those Africans exhibited a courage that we don't have. Those Africans will spark a courage inside of you, a spirit inside of you that'll say, I'm going to stand up. I'm going to stand up for what's right. And I'm not worried about how I die. I'm worried about how I live. And there's no death for an African, only transition. When you leave this plane of existence, you merely go join your ancestors. So you might as well embrace Ma'at now, embrace balance now, and do what you have to do now. Because we all going to leave this existence one day anyway. Anyway, no one stays here in this same flesh forever. So you might as well live for what's right while you're here. And that's the attitude they don't want to catch on. That's the attitude they don't want you to teach your children. At the Uhuru Academy, we're raising our children to be global citizens that operate without fear. Global citizens who expect to be successful, who expect to be owners. They expect to be producers. They expect opportunity. They're going to create opportunity. They're not begging for it from anybody else. That's our attitude. What if that was the attitude in every classroom that had Black children in it this morning? What if that was the attitude in every classroom that had African children in it this morning? That's what we're talking about. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So I want to motivate you. I want to motivate you today to not live in fear, to conquer your fear of the enemy, to conquer that, right? To look around at your community, look at your family, and see what more can I do to liberate those around me mentally, physically, and spiritually. What can I do? What can I do to liberate myself? What can I do to liberate myself, to get out from under the yoke of white supremacy, to get out from under the yoke of lack of opportunity, lack of confidence? What can I do for myself? That's what I want you to focus on. Support the Uhuru Academy. Support African-centered education. Oh, and I got to mention, our school trip this year is going to be to Washington, D.C. So we're going to be launching fundraisers, myself and our families, and giving you guys an opportunity to help us, help Uhuru Academy get to D.C. in the spring. Okay, so more information will be coming on that as well. We have a lot going on right now. All right. You can support us at uhuruacademy.com/donate or uhuruacademy.com/invest-tribute. Okay. African-centered schools, we don't apply for the government. No, I'm not a charter school. No, I'm not that. We're an independent private school. The enemy's not going to help us educate our children, and we shouldn't want their help. We're an independent private school, and we rely on you and your support in order to exist and to survive. No, we don't have a multi-million-dollar building yet, but that's coming. No, we don't have the land that we need in order to grow, develop community gardens and in an agricultural program that we want to develop, but that's coming. We're not going to stop. We're not afraid. We've conquered that fear. My wife and Koyo Ojuwo, myself, our parents, we've conquered that fear of the consequences for liberating our children. We've conquered that. We're doing our thing. If you want to join us, come join us. Liberate your children. You're not by yourself. Let's do it together. And I don't care where you live. We'll coach you. We'll support you. We'll hook you up with African Center schools in your area. You control where your children go on Monday morning. And I don't care how you rationalize it. And I love you. I love you and I don't mind telling you. But I don't care how you rationalizing it right now. It doesn't change the fact that your children are being exploited, miseducated, and lied to right now if they're in public school. I don't care what your reasons are. That doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the fact that your children right now are being exploited, miseducated, and lied to if they're in public school. So if you say, I can't take them out right now. I can't take them. You better put a plan together to get them out of there. They don't deserve your baby's genius. They do not deserve your children. They don't deserve our children. And it's not our school system. We don't control the curriculum, which is everything. If you don't control the curriculum, you control nothing when it comes to a school. We're not controlling whether dollars are allotted, and you can go to as many school board meetings as you want to. You will not gain curriculum control. But if we owned our own schools, if we built our own programs, if we homeschooled more, we control the curriculum. No one can tell me what to teach. We determine what we teach at the Uhuru Academy. So it is what it is. Hang in there. We rooting for you. We rooting for you. But you got to conquer that fear. A people who've conquered fear cannot be beat. Y'all got me? This has been the Morning Bill. I love you, and I don't mind telling you. Black Power. Y'all want to give them Black Power? Black Power.